At 55 years old, with $14,000 of debt she had never planned to carry, and a retirement account that had never been opened, Beverly made a decision on a Sunday night that she told absolutely no one about for 7 days. Not her co-workers, not her adult son, not her best friend of 30 years. 7 days of something so quiet it looked, from the outside, like nothing at all. And at the end of those 7 days, she understood something about her own life that 30 years of working hard had never managed to teach her. I want you to stay with this story, because Beverly is not extraordinary. She is not a woman who found a secret or got lucky or had someone swoop in and rescue her. She is a woman who was tired and scared and 55 years old and chose, in the smallest possible way, to do one thing differently. And that one thing cracked open everything. Beverly Okafor worked at the reception desk of a physical therapy clinic in a mid-sized city in North Carolina, in a neighborhood that was part residential and part commercial, the kind of place where there is always a nail salon next to a tax prep office, next to a church that has been there longer than anything else on the block. She had been at the clinic for 14 years. She knew every patient by name before they reached the front desk. She knew who needed extra time getting out of the car and came out to hold the door. She knew who was having a hard week with their recovery and needed a moment of honest conversation before she handed them the clipboard. She knew who needed her to be brisk and efficient, and who needed her to slow down and be a human being first. The therapists relied on her in ways that went well beyond scheduling and insurance verification. She was, in the truest sense, the person who held the front of the house together. Patients came back to say goodbye when they finished their treatment, which is not something people do at most front desks. She was paid $22 an hour. Beverly had come to the United States from Nigeria with her parents at age 9. Grown up in a working-class household in Raleigh, where money was always counted carefully and nothing was wasted, and built her own life with the same discipline she had watched her parents practice. She had married at 27, had her son Marcus at 29, and divorced at 34 in a process that was civil and expensive, and left her financially set back in ways she had been catching up from ever since. She lived in a 2-bedroom apartment she had rented for 9 years. The second bedroom was technically Marcus's, though he was 26 now and had his own place, and the room had become, gradually, a combination of storage and occasional guest room, and a kind of monument to a chapter of her life that was over. Her dream, the one she turned over in her hands when she let herself, was simple and specific. She wanted to own a home, not a mansion, not anything grand, a house with a porch she could sit on in the evening, in a quiet neighborhood, something she could point to and say, "This is mine, I did this, this is permanent." She had been working toward that dream for 20 years in the vaguest possible way, meaning she thought about it often and had never once sat down with a concrete plan. The one thing she allowed herself without guilt was her Saturday morning ritual. She went to the same diner 2 blocks from her apartment, sat at the counter, ordered coffee and eggs over easy with wheat toast, read whatever book she was in the middle of, and did not look at her phone for 1 hour. That hour was sacred. That hour was the proof that her life was still hers in some small measure. Everything else, every other hour of every day, belonged to something or someone that needed something from her. The debt had not arrived in one dramatic moment. It had accumulated the way most debt does, in small decisions made under pressure over a long time, until the sum of those small decisions became a number that could no longer be avoided. A car repair 2 years ago that she'd put on a card because the savings account wasn't enough. Marcus's emergency appendectomy, the year he was between jobs and uninsured, and she had put $3,000 on that same card without hesitating because he was her son, and what else do you do? Her own crown and root canal the following year, another $2,000 she hadn't planned for. A washing machine that died in November. None of it was reckless. All of it was the texture of real life happening to a woman without a financial cushion. But the sum was $14,000, sitting on 2 credit cards at interest rates that meant the minimum payments barely touched the principal, and at 55, with no retirement savings, the weight of that number had started to feel like something physical, like a coat she put on every morning, that was slightly too heavy and never came off. The moment that changed everything arrived on a Thursday afternoon in March. Beverly was on her lunch break, eating at her desk because the waiting room was full and she hadn't been able to step away when she received an email from her bank. A routine statement notification. She almost didn't open it. She opened it. She had been making the minimum payments on both cards reliably every month for 2 years. She had felt, in the abstract, that she was managing the situation, staying afloat, responsible. What the statement showed her, when she actually looked at the numbers instead of just processing the payment amount, was that after 2 years of minimum payments, the principal balance on the larger card had decreased by a total of $312. 2 years of payments, $312 of actual progress on a balance of $9,400. She sat very still at her desk. Through the window of the reception office, she could see the waiting room, 2 patients on their phones, one elderly man reading a magazine, the afternoon light coming through the blinds in the particular flat way it does in March. She had been paying and going almost nowhere. She thought about how old she would be when the debt was gone. At this rate, she did the rough math in her head, and then immediately did not want to have done the rough math in her head. She closed the email. She went back to work. That night, she did not sleep until 2 in the morning. The humiliation arrived 6 weeks later, in a form she had not anticipated. The clinic was celebrating its 20th anniversary, and the owner, Dr. Nguyen, had organized a small staff gathering at a restaurant downtown. It was meant to be festive, and it was, mostly. There were toasts and a cake, and a slideshow of photos that made everyone laugh. At one point, Dr. Nguyen stood up to speak about the team. He said generous things about the therapists and the aides. Then he said something about Beverly specifically, about how she was the heart of the front desk and the reason patients felt at home, and people clapped, and Beverly felt the warmth of it and thanked him. Then one of the newer therapists, a young woman named Sarah, who was 29 and well-meaning and completely unaware of the weight of what she was about to say, leaned over and said, "Beverly, have you thought about what you're going to do when you retire? You must be getting close to thinking about it." The table was small. Several people heard. Beverly smiled. She said something even and non-committal. She picked up her water glass. Getting close to thinking about it. She was 55 years old with no retirement savings, $14,000 of debt, and a home she had never bought. She was not getting close to retirement. She was standing at the edge of the last decade of her working life with nothing saved, and the realization, sitting in that restaurant with its anniversary cake, that she had managed everyone else's comfort for 30 years and had failed to manage her own future. She stayed until it was polite to leave. She drove home in complete silence. She sat in her car in the parking garage of her apartment building for 22 minutes. She counted them. April. The clinic had a slow week, which meant hours that Beverly could not afford to lose. 2 shifts were shortened. The check that Friday was noticeably smaller. She sat down that weekend to look at her actual numbers, all of them together, which she had not done in one sitting in she did not know how long, because looking at them all at once was the kind of thing that made her feel like the walls were moving. She wrote them down on a yellow legal pad: the debt, the interest rates, the rent, the car payment, the utilities, the groceries, her take-home pay. She looked at the bottom of the page for a long time. There was no obvious answer. There was no line item she could eliminate that would solve it. There was no quick path. There was just the arithmetic of a life that had been built on keeping things going rather than building anything up. And now the keeping going was running out of road. She put the legal pad face down on the kitchen table. She went to the second bedroom, Marcus's old room, and sat on the edge of the bed in the middle of the afternoon in the dim light with the blinds half closed. She thought about calling Marcus. She had her phone in her hand, but she knew what he would do. He would worry. He would offer to help. and she would refuse because she could not stand being the mother who needed rescuing by her own child. He would ask questions she didn't have answers to, and she would have to manage his concern on top of her own. She put the phone on the bed beside her. She thought with a flat, exhausted clarity that was different from dramatic despair. I am 55 years old, and I have worked my entire adult life, and I have nothing saved, and I owe $14,000, and I will probably work at that desk until I physically cannot anymore, and then I don't know what happens. She lay down on the bed, on top of the covers, still dressed from the morning, and closed her eyes. She stayed there until 5 in the evening when the room was dark. Then she got up, went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stood at the window, and said out loud, quietly, "I can't keep not looking at this." She went and picked up the legal pad from the table. She turned it face up. She sat back down. She did not have a plan, but she looked at the numbers. That was enough for that night. She met Ida on a Saturday morning at the diner, her sacred hour. It was early May, and Beverly was at the counter with her coffee and her eggs and the novel she'd been reading slowly, because lately the ability to concentrate on anything for more than 10 minutes had gotten harder, when the woman sat down 2 stools over. She was perhaps 80, though she carried it lightly, compact and upright in a way that suggested someone who had not spent her life hunched over anyone else's problems. She had silver locks pinned back and reading glasses on a beaded chain around her neck, and she ordered black coffee and a single piece of rye toast with no further ceremony. They sat in the comfortable silence of 2 people who are both there for their own reasons and do not need to perform sociability. Then the woman said, looking straight ahead at the counter, "That book any good?" Beverly looked up. "It is. Slow start, but worth it." The woman nodded. "Most things are." They were quiet again. The coffee came. After a while, Beverly said, because something in the morning had made her more honest than usual, "I'm having a hard time concentrating lately." The woman looked at her briefly. "Money or health?" Beverly blinked. "It's one or the other, usually," the woman said simply. "At our age." Our age? Beverly looked at her more carefully. She revised her estimate upward. "Money," Beverly said. The woman drank her coffee. She did not say, "I'm sorry," or "That's tough," or "Have you tried?" She said, "How long have you been not looking at it?" Beverly opened her mouth, closed it. "A long time," she said honestly. The woman set down her cup. She reached into her coat pocket and put a small notepad and a pen on the counter between them, the kind of notepad that was bought at a drugstore and had been used for years because there were only a few pages left. 7 days, she said. "Write down everything that comes in and everything that goes out, every single thing. Do it for 7 days and then look at what you wrote." Beverly looked at the notepad. "That's it?" she said. The woman picked up her toast. "You can't fix what you won't see, and you won't see it until you write it down." She paused. "Most people are scared of the number. The number isn't the scariest part." Beverly waited. The woman looked at her over the toast. "The scariest part," she said, "is finding out how much of it you chose." She went back to her toast. They sat in quiet for the rest of Beverly's hour. When Beverly got up to leave, she put money on the counter for both checks. The woman said, without looking up, "You don't have to do that." "I know," Beverly said. She took the notepad. She started that night. The first day, Beverly wrote down everything. Coffee at the diner, $4.75 plus tip. Gas, $31. Groceries she bought without a list because she was tired and grabbed things that looked right, $68. A candle she bought at the checkout because it smelled like something she couldn't name but needed, $12. She looked at the candle on her kitchen counter that night and thought, $12. She had not needed the candle. She had needed to feel like she was giving herself something, anything, because the rest of the day had felt like subtraction. She had self-soothed with $12 she didn't have. She understood for the first time that she had been spending money on small comforts, the way you press on a bruise, not to heal anything, just to feel something that was at least a sensation you had chosen. The first lesson arrived in the handwriting on that first page. She had been managing the pain of her situation with the same money that was causing the pain. The second day, she wrote down the recurring charges that came out automatically. There were two she had forgotten about. A streaming subscription she had signed up for during a free trial 2 years ago and never canceled, and a membership to an app she had downloaded when she was trying a new health plan and not touched in 14 months. Together, $22 a month, $264 a year, going nowhere. She canceled them both. It was not a solution. It was two small cuts in a large tangle. But something about the act of seeing the invisible money and stopping it gave her the specific satisfaction of a thing actually done. And she sat at the kitchen table and felt, for the first time in months, like she had some hands on the wheel. The third day brought the hardest entry on the list. Beverly had been sending $300 a month to her mother back in Nigeria since her father passed 3 years ago. Her mother was not in crisis. She had her own pension, small but sufficient. She had Beverly's brother nearby. She was, by the most honest accounting, not dependent on Beverly's $300 the way Beverly had originally structured the transfer. Beverly sat with her pen over the notepad for a long time before she wrote it down. $300 a month, $3,600 a year. She was not sending it because her mother would suffer without it. She was sending it, she realized, with the specific discomfort of an honest mirror, because stopping would require her to tell her mother that she herself was struggling. And she had never once let her mother know she was struggling. She was the child who had made it. She was the one in America. She was supposed to be fine. She had been paying $300 a month to protect an image of herself that cost her more than she could afford. She thought, I can reduce this. Not stop, reduce, explain honestly. And the reduction might temporarily bruise her pride, and it would also stop a small hemorrhage in her finances that she needed to stop. She thought about what her mother would say if she knew. She tried to imagine the conversation. Her mother's voice, the specific way she said Beverly's full name when something needed discussing. She thought, my mother raised me to be honest. Honesty costs less than pretending. She picked up her phone. She called. The conversation lasted 45 minutes. Her mother cried, briefly. Then she said, with the pragmatism of a woman who had built a life across conditions Beverly had never had to face, why didn't you tell me before? Beverly did not have an answer that was not pride. Her mother said, send me 150, that is enough. Beverly sat on the couch after the call and held the phone in both hands and felt the complicated mixture of shame and relief and love. That is the specific texture of having finally told the truth to someone you have been protecting from it. The fourth day of the 7 days taught her something about numbers that she had not understood before. She had always believed she was bad with money. She had carried that belief for 30 years like a verdict someone else had handed down. Bad with money was the explanation for everything: the debt, the lack of savings, the unbought house. It was a character flaw she had accepted as fixed. But when she looked at the 4 days of entries on that small notepad, what she saw was not a person who was bad with money. She saw a person who had never actually looked at where her money went, all of it, at the same time, in the same place. She had been managing money the way you manage a headache, treating symptoms as they arose, never looking at the underlying cause. She was not bad with money. She had simply never given herself the full picture. And you cannot navigate without a map. It is not a character flaw to be lost when no one has ever given you a map. It is just lost. The 5th day arrived with something she had not anticipated. Beverly had decided to track what she called the invisible income too, not just spending but every bit of value she received in a day that she didn't usually count. The clinic covered her health insurance. She had accrued enough paid time off that she hadn't tracked in years. She had a small 401k match available from the clinic that she had never activated because she had told herself she couldn't afford the contribution. She called HR. The match was 50 cents on every dollar she contributed, up to 3% of her salary. If she contributed 3%, the clinic matched half of that. Free money, sitting there, for 14 years, unclaimed. She was not angry at herself. She was past the point where anger at herself was useful. She just sat with the information and understood it as clearly as she had ever understood anything. She had been so focused on the emergency of today that she had never looked at the architecture of tomorrow. She enrolled that afternoon, 3%, small enough that she would feel it but not break under it. The clinic's contribution would begin the following pay period. She sat at her desk after she hung up with HR and looked out at the waiting room, at the ordinary Tuesday afternoon of it, patients in the chairs, the fern near the window she watered every Monday, the shelf of informational brochures she straightened every morning, and she felt something move through her that was not dramatic but was real. The specific sensation of having changed the direction of something, even slightly, even incrementally, by doing one small thing that she had access to all along. The sixth lesson came from the notepad itself. On day 6, Beverly looked back at the full week of entries, all the numbers in her own handwriting, and noticed something she had not expected to find. Mixed into the expenses she genuinely couldn't help, the rent, the utilities, the gas, the groceries, were a consistent pattern of small purchases made on the days when she had difficult interactions at work. On the day her car made a sound she couldn't afford to address, on the evening after she'd talked to Marcus and felt the particular loneliness of being a mother whose child is grown and well and doesn't need her the way he used to. She bought things on hard days, small things that cost between $8 and $20 and gave her about 40 minutes of comfort and added up over a month to more than she realized. She was not going to stop buying things that brought comfort. That was not the lesson. The lesson was simpler and harder. She had not known she was doing it. She had not been choosing it. It had been happening to her. And the difference between a habit you have chosen and a habit that is running you is the difference between steering and being carried. She wrote at the bottom of the last page, "Pay attention." The 7th lesson arrived on Sunday evening, the last night of the 7 days, and it did not arrive from the notepad. Beverly had cooked herself a real meal. The first time in weeks, she had cooked something that took more than 15 minutes because she had the energy for it and had bought the ingredients on purpose rather than grabbing whatever was nearest. She sat at her kitchen table with her plate and her water glass and the legal pad with all her real numbers on it, the debt in one column, the income in the other, the small retirement enrollment at the bottom, the reduced transfer to her mother, the 2 canceled subscriptions. She was not out of debt. She was not saved. She was not, by any measurable standard, fixed. But she was in the room with her own life for the first time in years, looking at it directly, not bracing in the dark, looking. And what she understood, quietly and completely, sitting at her own kitchen table on a Sunday night, was that avoidance had cost her more than the debt. That the years of not looking had let the problem grow undisturbed in the dark. That seeing it, all of it, clearly and without flinching, was not the end of something. It was the first possible moment of the beginning. The problem had not gotten smaller, but she had gotten larger, large enough to look at it without looking away. She did not tell anyone about the 7 days, not at first. She went back to work on Monday and nothing looked different from the outside. She was at the front desk. She knew the patients' names. She held the door. She handed the clipboard. But something had reorganized itself inside her, quietly. The way things reorganize after an earthquake, the landscape is the same and also completely different. Over the following months, the changes were small and cumulative and real. She worked with a nonprofit credit counseling service, free, which helped her consolidate the 2 card balances into a single structured repayment plan at a lower rate. The timeline was long, 30 months, but it was a real timeline with a real end, not the permanent horizon of minimum payments. She could see the other side. She reduced expenses in ways she had discovered were possible rather than ways that felt like punishment. She started grocery shopping with a list and a budget written down beforehand, which sounds simple and is, and saved her between $60 and $80 a month without eating worse. She started cooking on Sundays, batching things for the week, which meant fewer exhausted evenings grabbing convenience food she didn't really want. She kept the Saturday diner ritual. She did not cut that. Some things are not inefficiencies. Some things are the reason you can keep going. The retirement contribution stayed, 14 years late and still there. She tried not to think about the 14 years and thought instead about the 20 years still ahead if she wanted them. In August, Marcus came for dinner. Beverly had cooked. They sat at the table and talked the way they had started talking, since Beverly had stopped protecting him from the reality of her situation, which was to say more honestly, more usefully, more like two adults who loved each other and could handle the truth about each other's lives. She told him about the 7 days. She told him about the notepad. She told him about the call to his grandmother. He listened without interrupting. When she was done, he said, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" She looked at him across the table. He looked so much like his father in certain light, and so much like himself in others, and she loved him in the complicated and complete way that only parents understand. "I didn't want you to worry," she said. "I'd rather worry and know," he said, "than have you carrying it alone." She heard that sentence and let it land. She said, "I'm learning that." By November, she had a meeting with a housing counselor, also free, through a first-time homebuyer program she had not known existed. She was not buying a house that year or the next, but she had a plan, a real one, with real numbers and a real timeline. The dream she had carried for 20 years had a shape for the first time. She was 55 years old, and the plan said she could own a home by 60. She sat in the parking lot after that meeting for a few minutes, not in the way she had sat in parking lots before, motionless and heavy. This time she was just sitting, settling, letting something real take up the space it deserved. Then she went to pick up groceries. She had a list. February, and Beverly was covering the front desk alone during a long lunch when a woman came in for her intake appointment and sat down in the waiting room, and then, very quietly, started crying. Not loud, not dramatic, the specific kind of crying that a person does when they have been holding something for a long time, and a moment of stillness finds the crack. Beverly came around the desk. She sat in the chair next to the woman, whose name she had just checked in, Marlene, 48, new patient, referred for a knee injury. "Can I get you some water?" Beverly said. Marlene shook her head. "I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm fine." Beverly waited. "I'm not fine," Marlene said, correcting herself. "Okay," Beverly said. Marlene pressed her fingers against her eyes. I'm 50 next month. I have no savings. I'm about to put a medical bill on a credit card I already can't pay down, and I just feel like I don't know, like I got lost somewhere and didn't notice until now." Beverly sat with that for a moment. She thought about a woman at a diner counter with rye toast, about a small notepad, about 7 days. She said, "Can I tell you something that helped me?" Marlene looked up. 7 days, Beverly said. "That's all. Write down everything that comes in and goes out for 7 days. Everything, no judgments, just look." Marlene was quiet. "The number is not the scariest part," Beverly said. "The scariest part is finding out how much of it you chose. And once you know that, you can start choosing differently." She paused. "It doesn't fix everything," she said, "but it puts you in the room with your own life, and you can't do anything useful until you're in the room." The therapist came to the waiting room doorway then to call Marlene back. Marlene stood. She looked at Beverly for a moment. "Do you have a pen I can borrow?" she said, "and maybe a piece of paper." Beverly went behind the desk and came back with a small notepad from the supply drawer, the kind that cost almost nothing, and a pen. She put them in Marlene's hand. Marlene tucked them in her bag and went back for her appointment. Beverly went back to the desk. Through the window she could see the February outside, gray and still, the parking lot half empty, the nail salon next door with its lights on. She thought about Ida and whether she would ever see her again at the diner. She had gone back every Saturday since May. Sometimes Ida was there, sometimes she was not. The last time she had seen her, they had sat at the counter for nearly the full hour, talking about a great many things and nothing in particular. And when Beverly had stood to leave, Ida had said, without looking up, "How are the numbers?" Beverly had said, moving in the right direction. Ida had nodded, satisfied, and gone back to her rye toast. That was all. That was everything. Beverly sat at the front desk and answered a phone call, and then another, and then a patient came through the door, and she greeted her by name, and the February afternoon continued in its ordinary way, which was no longer, for Beverly, ordinary at all. Before we close today, I want to sit beside you for just a moment. Have you ever looked at your own financial life and felt that specific helplessness, not of someone who has been reckless, but of someone who has been working hard for a long time and still cannot see the ground beneath her feet? Have you ever avoided looking at a number because looking at it felt like swallowing something you could not come back from? Have you been carrying something for so long in the dark that you forgot there was another option? Beverly was 55 years old with $14,000 of debt and no retirement savings and no plan. And what changed everything for her was not a windfall. It was not a secret. It was 7 days of writing things down and looking at what she had written. That is it. That is the whole thing. So here is what I want you to do right now. Go to the comments and write DIA1. Then tell me one thing you are going to look at honestly today that you have been avoiding. One number, one conversation, one truth. It does not have to be solved today. It just has to be seen. I am going to read every single comment, and I want you to know that. And if Beverly's story stayed with you, if something in it woke up a piece of you that has been asleep, please stay here with us. Subscribe and turn the bell on. We come back every week with a new story about a woman who found her way back to herself through something real, not perfect, not easy, but real. Every like you give this video sends it to one more woman who is sitting in her car in a parking lot right now, looking at a number she has been afraid of, wondering if she has waited too long. She has not. Share this today with someone who needs to hear that. The numbers are not the enemy. The not looking is.